Okay, I am Trey Sherwood, and this is my video reflection for week 17. So I'll just go ahead and go through the questions. What is one thing you learned in the class that you did not already know? I actually knew a lot about conflict before I started this class. Other courses that I've taken before, like environmental history and political science courses, have taught me a lot about the theories and what's involved in conflict. But one thing that I learned from the class is how complicated it can be to resolve conflicts. This is because so many actors are usually involved, and all of them have their own self-interests. And on top of that, there's usually deep differences in core values and beliefs between groups that are in conflict, especially if it's like religious or cultural. Those are just really hard issues to solve because it's so deeply rooted into the values of the people involved in the conflict. The class impacted my understanding of conflict by helping me understand that there's so many dynamics and politics involved in conflict. It's not just two groups, at war, hating each other, just fighting. There's so many actors involved directly and indirectly. This became really apparent to me when I did the simulation, and we had to consider each country's interests and role, and even countries that weren't directly involved and the relationships with countries that were involved, like the United States' relationship with China and so on. So this class definitely impacted my view of conflict by, emphasizing the dynamics and politics involved. The theory that I think is most useful and plausible for explaining the cause of conflict would be competition of natural resources. When I took environmental history, I read a ton of books and in class, and the class basically was showing just how most conflicts are caused by the motivation to acquire some sort of natural resources. So Iraq, for example, and the United States, our goal was mostly to acquire petroleum and oil rather than some other reason for conflict like weapons of mass destruction. And so a theory that I think is the least useful or plausible is differences in ethnicity. And I know that might be controversial, but I think ethnicity differences aren't really the causes of conflict, but rather fuels conflict. So in Rwanda, for example, the Hutus and the Tutsis, they got along for a very long time until the ethnic distinction was imposed upon them, and they were learned to identify themselves as different groups who hate this group. And so I think ethnic distinctions can be used as a tool to foment war and conflict, but I don't think that it's usually a direct cause of conflict. I know identification plays a large role in conflict, but like I said, it's usually not the cause. So it's usually about natural resources or something more tangible. How will you use something from this class in your life going forward? That's a good question. So I think a skill that I've really developed in this class is being able to critically evaluate multiple factors of causes and reasons. There's so many different theories for the causes of conflict and different approaches to resolve it, and all of them are good. It's just completely dependent on the conflict at hand, and so it depends on all the different factors at play, relationships between the actors, the cause of the conflict itself, even the demographics. And so this class definitely helped me look at the broader picture of something and evaluate all the factors that are interplaying in developing the conflict. So that's the end of my video. I really enjoyed the class, and that was it.